Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us for a conversation. We have a very special guest with us today, and we're going to be kind of getting into mental health and her journey with it. So, I want to introduce Caroline to everybody.
Hi.
If you kind of want to tell us a little bit about yourself, what do you do now, maybe career wise, and then also what you do with the page that you have on Instagram.
Perfect. My name's Caroline Kelley. I'm 26. I'm a medical esthetician. What I do is just, medical aesthetics. So I do like facials, things like that. And I do have a mental health page about my OCD and anxiety. I also have ADHD, which doesn't help, but a lot of overthinking. So I just kind of made that page to kind of reach people to make sure that, everyone feels seen and heard. And especially we're all going through something. Um, Always, no matter what, and you never know what anybody's going through inside, so just to kind of put that all out there.
That's great. And we're going to have, if for everybody watching, we're going to have her page down below so that you can check that out if you have any questions, if you yourself are
Yeah.
dealing with that. So we'll put that down there. So my first question for you is what is mental health to you? What does that mean to you?
Mental health to me is, I mean, mainly it's my OCD and my anxiety. It just means that I do struggle on a day-to-day basis, but it's able to be controlled with the right tools and things like that. It's an important thing to understand your mental health and to like pursue your mental health. Get the help you need if you need help, and know how to help others essentially.
Yeah, I love that you said pursue mental health because it's a thing that you have to
Yeah.
go for. A lot of people, and I've posted this
Mhm.
before, that mental health is not taken as seriously as physical health. And people think that it's not
No.
something that in the long run is important, but if anything, it's something you deal with a day-to-day basis. Honestly, I think more than physical
Yeah.
health. I forgot the statistics, but I saw somewhere that you make a lot of decisions every single day. Like even the very little things that people don't even
Yeah.
think about, but from waking up to going to bed, like there's so much in between that. Even if you have an off day, even if you're just laying in your bed all day, like that's a decision all in itself. And then whatever decision you make while you're laying there, you
Yeah.
watch something, you're texting people, whatever it may be. So I love that you said pursue that. So what has been your mental health journey? When was, this stuff that you were talking about with your OCD and your anxiety, like when did that start manifesting? How did you become aware of that? How did you learn more about that? And what was your relationship with God throughout that?
So, yeah. So I
That
was
was a lot
pretty
of
much, I've
questions.
always had, no, you're fine. I've always had, I'm pretty sure, OCD and anxiety, even when I was young. I'm pretty sure it runs in my family, like genetic wise. But back then I obviously didn't know what it was or what, how to name it, I guess you could say.
Hmm.
I just knew that I was a fearful kid. I was always a fearful kid. Um, and really growing up, that kind of calmed down and it was just normal, normal, right? There's really
Right.
no
Yeah.
there's things normal. But it was just like, very, straight line, easy. And then I had a lot of trauma. My brother passed away when I was like 17. And that didn't really trigger it, but I got a lot of anxiety from it. I started to have panic attacks. And I didn't know what that was. I just thought I was kind of like, I thought I was dying or something was wrong with me, essentially.
Yeah.
Um, and then it wasn't until like, I think 2 or 3 years later that I got into therapy. Um, and I went to a Christian counselor because I grew up religious.
Hmm.
And so I went to a Christian counselor. She helped me a lot. She really did. And then, but at the time, I only thought I had general anxiety disorder. Um, and then I kept going, and then my mother passed away. And I
Hmm.
think this is when I kind of relapsed with OCD a little bit. Like it kind of reared its ugly head again. And um, unfortunately, OCD is one of the most stigmatized mental health disorders there is. It doesn't always have to do with cleanliness, tidiness. Actually, the majority of the time, it has to do with just intrusive thoughts and doing those compulsions to keep those intrusive thoughts away or to relieve your intrusive thoughts, because it really doesn't take them away. It actually makes them worse when you do the compulsions. So I didn't realize what it was. I had a theme for a while that was like I was going to get drugged or someone was going to drug me. Um, Logically, it's so funny. You have
Yeah.
like a logical side of your brain, and then you have your OCD side, and so
Mhm.
you're kind of like at war with with yourself constantly because you're like,
Yeah.
obviously, no one's going to drug me. But then
Mhm.
your OCD brain's like, but they could. What if they do?
Mm.
And then so you start to do things to prevent that. Like I remember like buying $30 worth of Taco Bell and throwing it out because I was so scared that
Wow.
somebody would have drugged me. And like
Wow.
that through the process of healing and doing the therapy that helps, you're supposed to just eat the Taco Bell, even if you have those fears. Just do
Mhm.
it. Do it scared. Do what you need to do. And there's so many types of OCD, and there's so many themes, and there's so much information on it. And if you struggle with constant or prominent intrusive thoughts, then you're not alone. It's not abnormal. You just need to do some more, work on that, and just go get help and get therapy. Or if you're too scared to get therapy, just, really look into it at least.
Mhm.
You just
Yeah.
help yourself and know that you are not alone. Girl, you're not alone. I can tell you that. You're not. But I through my like journey, I definitely relied on, my faith, and, knowing that I'm I'm a child of God. I'm
Mhm.
fearfully and wonderfully made. Like there is nothing wrong with me. And I am not my thoughts. Thoughts are something you cannot help. They come in. Now, what you do after that, you can help. But for
Right.
someone who doesn't know they have OCD, they're just trying to protect themselves. At the end of the day, your brain creates that mechanism to do the compulsions to help you, to protect you. Even though it's not, you can still do the work to figure out what really does protect you and what really does help.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Can you go into more of what OCD is? Because I feel like, like I said, it's very stigmatized, but it's also just not really talked about, even because I'm in grad school now for psychology. We
No.
have probably spoken about it like once. Like I don't remember an actual conversation, and they usually focus on more um I don't want to say extreme disorders, but they do talk more about like schizophrenia and stuff that's, a lot more,
Yeah.
it can get a lot more severe in the everyday to day life. And we focus on that, and then,
Yes.
anxiety and depression and stuff, but OCD is not even talked about in the psychology field really. So can you kind of explain more
Yeah.
of what that is?
Of course. So OCD essentially is you have an emotion or a fear or something. Let's say like you're driving your car down the street and you have a thought, I could wreck my car into oncoming traffic. This is
Mhm.
a thought that normally goes through people's minds.
Yeah.
Everyone has these. I shouldn't say everyone, but majority of
Intrusive
people, like
thoughts,
the
yeah.
majority of the population, yes, will have
Mhm,
that thought. A person who doesn't have OCD will not think anything of it, and it will kind of they will see it and it just goes by.
mhm,
Someone who has OCD will see it, look at it, examine it, ruminate about it to try to figure out if that's something they could possibly do. If it is, they try to do all the things to make it not possible. So some people stop driving, some people
mhm.
stop like yeah, it can get pretty severe. It can get very debilitating. Some people will stop using knives because they're afraid they'll stab their partner or themselves. Like it can get pretty scary for some
Mhm,
people. Even though these are things they would never do, the fear of them possibly doing it
mhm,
drives them and mm, they what they do on the day-to-day basis. Now, in ERP, we practice just doing it anyways, just
mhm,
driving your car anyways, and seeing the intrusive thoughts and letting yourself be uncomfortable with that.
mhm,
It brings a lot of people anxiety, extreme fear. So it can be just as debilitating as some other mental health disorders, especially if it goes untreated. I would say it's just a constant um, battle with your mind. Like you'll just
Mhm.
keep getting obsessions, and your themes can switch. I think the most important thing to know about OCD is it's typically has nothing to do with the theme. It has to do with something that you do not want, like an emotion that you have kind of repressed that you
Mhm.
don't want to let out.
Mhm.
But it will just kind of cling on to a thought or a theme because we can control those things in a sense, in
Yeah.
a way. You can't really
Yeah.
control it, but does that make sense?
Yeah, no,
Like,
no, it really does. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's really good.
yeah,
And
so I just feel,
oh, go ahead.
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you
No,
got it.
you go. Okay. So it's just essentially like I feel a very strong, like it's also egoistonic. So like let's say it goes all against your all of your values. All the intrusive thoughts you get go against everything that you actually believe. So like
Mhm.
let's say with my like let's say I had harm OCD, which is a very very common type of OCD where you're afraid that you will hurt other people and yourself. Um that goes against everything I am. I am a
Mhm.
loving, kind person who would never harm anything. I can't even kill a bug. Like and like but some people it scares them so much because it goes against all their values and everything that they love, and they're afraid they won't live like they're afraid they'll go to prison for it or they'll be dead. Like it's just like almost like their intrusive thoughts or their actions that that won't be that you won't actually act on but what make you feel like you might act on them, um, will kind of ruin your life in a sense. And
Mhm.
usually the people who have OCD cherish their life and cherish others around them. So, they never would want to do that.
Yeah. I have a question. So,
Yeah.
because there is a dissonance kind of and just a distance between, what you said, who you are and how your thoughts manifest, and that that's not you. Do you know anybody that deals with the same thing, that deals with imposter syndrome? Like they feel like who they are isn't really who they are because these thoughts,
Yes.
you're thinking like, where did it come from if that isn't me?
100%. A lot of the time, that is what happens. A lot of the
Mhm.
time, like for a little bit there, when I was dealing with my own harm OCD, or some people call it suicidal OCD, where you're afraid that you'll do something to yourself that you don't really want to do. I started to feel like, who even am I? Like, do I even know who I am? Am I possible of that? Am I capable of doing that? Even though it brought me such fear and such terror, I just still got you get lost in that. Your mind plays tricks on you and it
Mhm.
sucks. And but there are tools. Don't get
Yeah.
scared. There are
Yeah.
tools, you can figure it out.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
can you tell me more about the Christian counseling that you did? Like, what did that look like for you? What did goals look like for you?
So with that counseling I did, I'm with a new therapist now, and I'll kind of get into that too. But
Mhm.
with my therapist I had when I thought I had just anxiety, she really helped me. You know, it wasn't all about the word, obviously, because there are some tools that don't have to do with the word, but
Yeah.
it was about like, standing and knowing who I am through God and knowing how I was made and I know myself and I know those things that he says about me are
Mhm.
true.
Yep.
To really rely on it and really like, use scripture to fight against, like I would just use scripture if I was scared, if I was fearful, that I would just say my favorite verse and it would help a lot. Um, but with the new therapy I'm doing now, which is meant for OCD, it has a lot to do with like exposure prevention therapy that
Mhm.
will, you know, you will do something that you're afraid to do, like hold a knife if you're afraid. Just use it how you normally would. Use it like you don't have OCD, essentially.
Mhm.
And that really, really helps. It's one of actually the most effective treatments for OCD, even like before medicine.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah,
So
exposure therapy is I myself, so I'm not currently seeing a therapist, even though, I've
yeah,
been searching high and low, but we know how it is with finding, the right one for you.
yes,
But at one point,
yes,
I was actually dealing with pretty severe like eating disorders. and
Yeah.
I could never first off, I could just never look at myself in the mirror, and if I did, I always thought I was way bigger than I actually was, and when I started going to this one therapist, she was brutally honest, which was a good thing for a therapist, but she,
Yeah.
kind of introduced me to exposure therapy and made me do things that were extremely uncomfortable, and having
Mhm.
to really exposure therapy is basically like in some ways like exposure to yourself and really having to face yourself and
Yes.
facing your thoughts and really dissecting that and yeah, just facing it head on. So that's really cool that it's like a really huge tool for OCD and stuff. And I
Yes.
know that I truthfully I still deal with difficulties with that sometimes. It's very hard to get out
Oh,
of a
of course.
mindset that you were in for years in so many
Absolutely.
different ways because I dealt with like multiple of them. So it's like my thoughts are so all over the place because like I don't know, it's just a lot and stuff. But I know that's also a really big tool for other, issues and stuff like that. So that's really
Yes.
great. Yeah.
I think it's used across the board essentially.
Hmm.
Just like with cognitive behavioral therapy, I think cognitive behavioral therapy and ERP go really hand in hand for people who have OCD and anxiety
Hmm.
disorders.
Hmm.
Um, but I will say, practicing that and going to a therapist who is educated, like I go to a therapist who is OCD and anxiety recovery. So I went to a therapist who is specialized in my disorder. And I think that's very important because before
Yeah.
her, I went to just a talk therapist and she had no idea the like complexity of OCD. And
Hmm.
so she kind of just triggered me our entire appointment. And I was just
Wow.
like, this is not helpful. And so, um, and I mean, obviously, I don't think she is aware, but like,
Yeah, I'm
it's
sure
very
she didn't come up
important.
there like, woo.
Yeah. Yeah. But like, I think it's just very important to go to someone who knows what they're talking about, especially when you have a mental illness you feel is very stigmatized and don't and not a lot of people know about it or understand the complexity of it.
Mhm. Yeah, that's great. So what are some other things that you do besides, therapy that you
Yes.
maintain your mental health?
Yeah. So with therapy, I go to group therapy as well, where I'm in it with a bunch of other girls who do struggle with OCD and anxiety. Um, and it is pretty amazing to hear other people's stories. And we're all at different points of our recovery. So it's
Mhm.
really special to kind of help people and then them help you through that. Um, I also do a lot of self-care. Self-care
Mhm.
queen. I love makeup. I love facials. I do it all. It just really makes me feel good about myself
Mhm.
and I just love it.
Mhm.
I also love to like journal. I have a gratitude journal. I think it's super important to like really, really remain grateful
Mhm.
because every day is a blessing and we can do so many great things in one day. So I just really think having gratitude is great. And, you know, leaning on that, especially hard days. And I know it's hard. I know to be
Mhm.
when you're having one of those days where you're like, everything sucks. There's something good, I promise.
Mhm.
So yeah, I
Yeah.
would say that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just even waking up and being alive every day, it is,
Yes.
and it is hard, and especially when you have so much going on, and it may not even be
Hmm.
like something that's automatic for you. You may wake up and just go and not really sit and
Yeah.
take that time, and that's something I'm
Yes.
currently working on being better with because we tell the kids, you got to do that, but it's hard to practice what you preach
Yes.
sometimes, So, that's
100%.
yeah, that's all really really great. So last question. Is there
Yes.
anything, do you have anything, a nugget or anything you want to say to just youth that are possibly struggling with that or even just other things that are in the realm?
Yeah. I would just want you guys to know that I mean, I said it before, but you guys are not alone. There is always someone who is right there with you and who would love to help you. You are loved, um, and you are important. And there's tons of people who need you and want you. And so just to feel that and to know that, I wish that for everyone and I pray that for everyone. Um, And just, yeah, getting help is important, and don't be afraid to reach out if you need it. It's like, it's hard to do. I know it can be scary, but once you do it, it's just your life can change. And it
Mhm.
will.
Yes, yes. Thank you so
Yes.
much for hopping
Of
on and
course.
having this conversation with me. I'm so happy that we were able
Yes.
to do this.
Me too.
For everybody watching, we're gonna tag her page below so you can go and check it out if you have any questions,
Yeah.
if you know, need someone to relate to and just need encouragement in that.
Yes.
We are both here
Yes.
for
You
you.
can always talk to me. I'm always
Yes.
here.
Yes, you guys are so loved and God loves you too. Thank you guys so much and we'll
Yes.
see you on the next conversation. Bye everybody.
Yes. Bye.